Odi, 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 yeah. Odi, 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 yeah. Odi, 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 yeah. Odi, 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 yeah. Hallo. Willkommen in der Dolphins Dive Bar. I am your host, Tony 2 times Chicky. Hey, let's talk about some football in Deutschland. Frankfurt, baby. So, like I said in the introduction, welcome to the Dolphins Dive Bar. I don't know, man. So, the Dolphins hold Kansas City to 14 points on offense. Shut out Kansas City in the second half of the football game. Have the perfect game plan to all but eliminate Travis Kelce from the game, to make the other guys like Pacheco and Rice, whoever else is out there on the field, Darius, Tony, just keep these guys from making a big impact in the game. And the Dolphins still lose in Deutschland by a final score of 21-14. Miami can't cap the comeback, down 21-0 in the first half, giving them a 7-point buffer as well by an offensive giveaway. Miami will fall to 6-3 on the season. Kansas City jumps up to 7-2. Both teams are going into the bye week. Miami unfortunately loses their fourth straight game on European soil. The last 3 losses came in London. Today's loss comes in Germany. Frankfurt, the beautiful city of Frankfurt. Unfortunately, the Dolphins just own that dubious distinction, I think, of being the first team to lose a regular season game in London and then being the first team to lose a regular season game in Deutschland. So, maybe stop going to Europe. Who knows? Miami, you see, reputations are earned. They're not given, right? And Miami keeps earning their reputation to the national landscape as potential frauds, a team that can't win the big game because they don't win the big game. They can't overcome the mistakes that they made early. Last season and a little bit into this season, the Fins had a few problems. Last season, we thought we got rid of the fact that play calling and clock management were big problems, big issues. Today, the Dolphins have to burn 2 timeouts, one in the first half, one in the second half, because they can't get a play call off on time. The penalties in the drives that all year, that's who Miami is, right? They get penalties on drives, and usually, especially last year and any previous year, anytime the Dolphins would get a penalty on an offensive drive, it would kind of just kill the drive, right? Kill the momentum of the drive. This year it looked different, but when they're against the quote-unquote lesser teams, they get a penalty, and it's like second and long, third and long, and you're like, oh, I got no problem with this. Dolphins are going to get it. They've done it every time. I have no reason to think that they're not going to do it. But then when they play the better teams, the teams with a more formidable defense, well, yeah, those are drive killers for Miami. Drops. They didn't really have a lot of drops today, but the drops they had were crucial. Unfortunately, Tyreek Hill, he had one. Tyreek wanted to have a good game so bad today. He got the haircut. He got the old school Tyreek look. He grew the Andy Reid mustache. And then he proceeded to help Andy Reid and his team by giving him the football that they can take to the house. He's still scoring touchdowns for the Chiefs. Worst game as a Dolphin for him by far. He had 8 catches for 62 yards, no touchdowns. And what's the reason for that? It can't be the hype, It can't be the hype or the heaviness of the moment, because that dude's a gamer, He's been to 2 Super Bowls, has won 1. His whole career, until he came for the Dolphins, has been high-stakes games, high-stake playoff games, divisional round games, AFC Championship games, Super Bowl games. So I know he can play. It's just, he just picked a terrible time to have, a bad game. Tua. Wait a second, there's Marino. Where's my Tua Funko Pop? Oh, it must have disappeared. It disappeared the same way that Tua Tagovailoa disappeared today in the last 2 drives of the football game. Dolphins had 2 drives to get a tie. There was like 12 minutes left in the fourth quarter when Miami's getting the ball back. They do a long drive, took up like 7-8 minutes of clock, get past midfield, and then once they got past midfield on the last 2 drives especially, that was it. You're running the football well on that last drive, chewing up yards, and then you go for 4 straight throws. Why not hand it off at least one more time? You could have even handed it off on 3rd down and got a big chunk of those yards back because they're expecting pass on 3rd and 4th down. So you hit them with a delay or another outside run while you're in the shotgun. And, let Mostert do it. He was carrying that team on his shoulders that last drive. You decide to get away from it, and you get like 4 straight incompletions, and game's over. Tua finishes the game 21 for 34 today. Gets 193 yards, 1 touchdown. He got sacked 3 times today. And then, of course, he disappears on that final drive, or disappears on those final 2 drives. And just not a good game. Nobody on that offense could really say they had a good game. I guess other than Mostert, because he did run the ball hard. He did score a touchdown. He had 85 yards and a touchdown today and some broken tackles. He's the only one that really consistently showed up on the offense today. Speaking of potential frauds with the Dolphins, right? Since they can't beat the quote-unquote big teams, they can't beat teams with a good defense, right? I'm looking at the schedule. Their last 4 games of the season are the Jets, Dallas, Baltimore, and the Bills. All teams with good defenses, right? So by the current logic, by the current reputation that they hold, the current way that they're playing, the Fins could lose all 4 of those games. So even though the Jets' offense sucks, their defense is nice, right? And it's hard for Miami to move the ball on nice defenses like that. So assume they lose those 4 games. They could even lose a game to a bad team, like one of the bad teams. The Raiders are doing all right today while I'm filming this. Well, they're beating the Giants, but, Tennessee could sneak up on them. Who knows, right? But then you could be finishing the season 10-7, 9-8, sneaking into a wild card, and then in typical Dolphins fashion, you get to the wild card, and then you poo the bed, and then you get bounced, right? Now, do I think that's going to happen? Absolutely not. I kind of think more of the opposite in the sense of this defense is getting healthy. This was the first time that the defense on the field was basically the defense that we envisioned in the offseason and in the preseason. When these guys were healthy, they could come together, they can gel, and you're seeing it. You're seeing it now. This defense, they can, and they're going to have to keep us in a lot of these games, especially as the tougher defenses come on down the season with that stretch, because these could be more games like today in this Kansas City game, low-scoring affairs. Team that makes the least amount of mistakes gets the W. And hey, maybe they do lose 2-3 more games this season, right? Especially to some of those top teams. And I'm not worried about it because if they actually learn from their mistakes the way that they claim they do, and you lose into all these teams, you'll know how to play these teams again down the road in a potential playoff matchup, right? Because if you make the playoffs, you're going to be playing most of the teams that you've been losing to. You might play Buffalo, you might play Baltimore, you might play even though we haven't lost to Baltimore, you might play Kansas City again. Albeit on the road, but you're going to have to get used to winning on the road, something they haven't been able to do against these teams. But they can go back and clean a lot of a lot of it up that when they play these teams in the playoffs, yeah, maybe they can beat them. Maybe they can go to the Super Bowl by being that team that couldn't beat an over 500 team during the season, but then they get to the playoffs, they just run through things. But that's so far into the future. Like, let me take that delusional cap off, and let's get to the real nuts and bolts of what happened in this game. Game starts off, I guess Miami wins the toss. They choose to defer, get the ball the second half. Kansas City drives down the field. Like, it seemed like that, right? Their first play of the game was a 21-yard pass. And then later in the drive, they had a 24-yard pass. They scored a touchdown, which was overturned after they see that the ball spiked off the ground. Receiver dropped it. But then on the very next play, they get the touchdown. Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes went 5 for 6 on that first drive, hit 5 different wide receivers. Kansas City's up 7-0. Fins' first play of the offense, I guess it's a timing play because they just love throwing into multiple coverages. They hit Waddle. He's like triple covered in there, but Tua finds the window, first down. Then classic Fins move. They had to burn their first timeout on that drive because they couldn't get the play out in time, right? And then they get a penalty, which really doesn't matter because on the very next play, the Chiefs got a penalty. They got those 5 yards back. But then Tua goes and gets sacked on third down for the first of his 3 sacks. Dolphins got a punt. And then the defense answered, man. The next 2 defensive drives were pretty tight, you know. I mean, Sealer had some good pressures. The guys had tight coverage. On the the third drive of Kansas City, Miami got a 3-and-out on him on that third defensive possession. And that was a big part of the game. That defense was getting off the field quick. I mean, you hold a team to 14 points, you're getting off the field. You know, the Chiefs' final scoring drive, offensive scoring drive of the game was, it was 3rd and 4. The Kansas City receiver makes like that acrobatic play. He makes that catch on near the sideline where he's completely stretched out. He gets 5 yards out of the 4 that he needed. They get the first down. It prevents Kansas City from going 3-and-out. And then what do? That play seemed like it sparked them. That was the catalyst for their scoring drive. They go all the way down the field. I think they went like close to 90 yards or whatever down the field, get a touchdown. They're up 14-0 with about, 2:30 or so left before halftime. Miami gets the ball in the next drive, and then that's when disaster happens. Tua, I guess, tries throwing a wide receiver screen, or, Hill steps back, gets it, and immediately he's hit. They pushing him back. Upon the replay, it doesn't look like he really had possession of the football, but I guess he did because ball comes out, they pick it up, starts to run it back. Hill's got his arms around him, so he just flicks it to another guy on the team who just houses it, takes it all the way back. Miami down 21-0 going into halftime. At that moment, you're like, me anyway, I'm like, yep, that's it. That's the dagger because these guys held us to a shutout in the first half. Miami shut out in the first half for the first time in 40-some-odd games. They're like, and then it's Kansas City. You're not going to be able to stop these guys. This game's over. What an ugly game. I can't believe I woke up so early in the morning for this. But then it's a tale of 2 halves, even though the Dolphins lost them both. The Dolphins were able to do some things in the second half. They were able to get a couple touchdowns. They had that nice throw to, I think it was Cedric Wilson. There's 2 Wilson Juniors on the team, so I'm never sure. Yeah, it was Cedric Wilson who gets that touchdown catch. And, that's what we want Chase Claypool to be doing on this team. To be that big body that can go up, grab a ball in a one-on-one from a defender, and get it done. But, Claypool has produced another one of the all-time disappearing acts. These other ancillary pieces that they have, I don't know, they just can't get them involved. They rely so much on the Hill-Waddle connection that these guys, Braxton Berrios didn't get no love today. He didn't get no catches. You got to fight if you really want to compete in the end of the year. When they take away your number 1 and number 2 option, you got to find these other guys that can help make plays, right? Fins start the half with a 3-and-out. And then defense, of course, again, the defense does its thing. Miami misses Waddle it was like third down. Miami missed Waddle wide open up in the seam. I don't know if it was third down. But, I mean, you hit him, it's an easy touchdown, right? And he's limping back. You know, he's been dealing with things. He got tail whipped today. His knee was hurting. His leg was hurting. He was still out there getting it in for us. But fortunately, on that same drive, that's when Wilson had the catch. It's, 21-7. Defense comes out, forces a fumble. Bradley Chubb gets home. Him and Phillips are wrapping Mahomes up. Get the ball, strip it out of him. Miami recovers. I think maybe Sealer recovered it. Dolphins get a short field. You know, of course, offense commits a penalty on the drive. Tyreek drops the pass. They get it was up. But he got two hands on it. He should have been able to come down with that catch. He was in a good possession to catch it. But then the Fins get the benefit of an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. I think it was Chris Johnson. And look, I mean, Miami got the calls today. Like, I thought last week that Miami would get none of the calls that Mahomes and the Chiefs, they would get everything handed to them this game. It wasn't so. I mean, those announcers were, like, legitimately so mad that Miami didn't get called for roughing the passer when Mahomes got hit on the sideline because he was running towards the marker. You know, the defender already made his move by the time he had stepped down, so he gets a little contact on him. Refs didn't throw the flag. All right, good. But I mean, they couldn't live with it. They couldn't live with them. So that drive ends on that Mostert monster touchdown run. So, you know, it was a third down, so it would have been third and long. So it would have been fourth and long. And instead of fourth and long, it becomes 1st and 10 because of the penalty. Miami's able to go down. Mostert gets a touchdown. 21-14, and then that's the end of the scoring, right? Last two drives, Miami get past midfield, fall apart. They get the first play is like a 6-yard loss by Savon Ahmed. Then they get sacked on second down. Wilson was wide open on that third down. I don't know if that was the first or second drive, but I don't know what happened. The ball looked like it slipped out of Tua's hand in the post-game presser. They say it was miscommunication, lack of communication. They said that they gave the signal for a comeback route, but I guess Wilson didn't see it and he went long. But it's like, why would you want to do a comeback? Or you look at your receiver, the dude's got like a step or two on the defender. You want him to come back for it? I mean, he had him beat. You put it up. Easy peasy, scored, game tied, or go for two, have the balls go for two, game over, right? And then the Fins forced the punt, 3rd and 1, they got Kelsey double teamed, they get great penetration at the line, make Mahomes scramble, but he can't scramble forward, he has to go side to side, he throws it out, Miami gets the punt, they get the ball back with ample time. And then they're handing the ball off to Mostert. He's chewing up the yards, running downfield. I mean, he put the team on his shoulders. He put the team on his legs at the end of that football game. And then they just completely abandoned him with the throwing the football in the 4 straight plays. And then, the ugly play, 4th down. I mean, you can't even give the team a chance to make a W happen because there's just one bad snap. Connor snapped it high and to the right to try to get into it. They were sending the house. They were in cover 0. So, I mean, Waddle looked open. He was running like a post move, one-on-one. Tua got it. He could have, I don't know what number read that would be for him, but wide open down the middle. I mean, you could hit that post with the few fleeting moments that you would have had while you had the football. Could have happened, but it didn't happen. Dolphins fumble, Tua does recover it, but I mean, it's 4th down, game over. Chiefs come down, kneel it, and they get to leave Deutschland with the W. And God, man, just what turned out to be what could have been a really crappy game that turned into what was actually a pretty good game here at the end. Just, but it once again just shows that Miami not ready for the prime time, not ready for the big time. The difference between the good and the great teams, because the Chiefs didn't have a great game, but they're still the great team because they figured out the way to win. They get shut out in the second half. All right, the defense bends, but the defense doesn't break. They get not Vic Fangio, Steve Spagnuolo's defense gets the stops. They make the plays when they have to. Miami's defense did the same thing as well. He just spotted them 7 with the fumble that they go back. So now you got to do even more, But this defense, man, as they gel as the season goes on, I think they're going to be very formidable. So next week, we will be off because the Dolphins will be off. Miami's going into the bye. So they get a little extra time to work on things. They get a little extra time for this sick feeling to stick with them. They can't even get on the field and beat up on somebody of a lesser standing than them because, they got the week off. But they get time to rest those bodies. Teron Armstead was back. We'll see how the other guys can do. Devon Achan should be eligible to get off the IR and come back to practice and doing all his stuff. So we'll see. We do play the Raiders at the Rock in 2 weeks. Raiders are 3-5. They'll probably be, I don't know if they have a bye week next week or not, but they should have 4 wins going into that game because, they're beating up on the Giants right now. We'll see. Burns my ass. It really does. Well, I am done with this delicious German Franziskaner Weissbier. And that means we're done with this video. Once again, Dolphins are off next week. I want to thank you for coming to the dive bar, hanging out. Unfortunately, we have to cry our tears into our beer glass because the Dolphins come out short. But we're not going to let it ruin our week. And hey, that German crowd, amazing. The German festivities, amazing. I wish I was there. Like I said before, I used to live 20 minutes south of Frankfurt in the beautiful city of Wiesbaden with its natural springs and all that. And I miss it, and I wish I was there. I wish I could have gone to that game, even though, like the last Dolphin game I went to in London where they got 20-0 skunked by the New Orleans Saints. I would have been going home or taking that train back home with that dirty feeling of a loss. But hey, what can you do? You can't win them all. Nobody's the 72 Dolphins but the 72 Dolphins, right? So anyway, once again, thanks for coming to the Dolphins Dive Bar and tschüss. Auf Wiedersehen. Ciao, ciao.